Hello and welcome. I am Robert Chapple, and this is the imaginatively titled Mr. Chapple's Handcrafted podcast. We are sponsored by Close Call Creative, the home for everything you need in terms of creative direction and digital media solutions. I will start this now going, please go and subscribe to the YouTube channel, go follow us on Spotify, share it with your friends, share it with your neighbors, have some fun and join us. Today, I am very lucky to be talking to the rather wonderful Dan Graham. He is best known to me as the bassist from Cavalier Attitude, and more recently as the promoter behind the wonderful new uh, uh, set of gigs that are coming up under the name of Motion Sickness. With that, I'm going to say hello, Dan. Tell us a little
Hiya.
bit about yourself. Give us a bit of your background, and what is it I don't know about you?
Hiya, my name's Dan. I am the bass player in Cavalier Attitude and also run Motion Sickness Promotions in Belfast. I have been working on the local scene since 2017. So I've been around for a while. So I have in different forms, which has been great. One thing you don't know about me. Actually don't know. I am a primary school teacher that's my day job. So when I'm not playing the punk band or running the promotion, I'm teaching. So yeah, that's my day job.
I did not know that. That's
Yeah.
really cool, and that is a dedication. I have a number of teachers at various levels in my family, and I I think they're wonderful. Teachers are so important. Teachers that play in bands even more so.
Even more so. Absolutely agree with
So
you.
let's kind of jump into this, and the structure of this as a podcast is we want to talk a little bit about your past, a little bit about your present, and a little bit about what's going to happen in the future. So in terms of your past, what was your musical environment like growing up at home? Were you a musical family? Was music everywhere around you, or did you just find it on your own?
So growing up, like I wouldn't say my family was musical in the sense of nobody played instruments, anything like that there. However, I was raised in a house full of music from my mum and dad, constantly playing music in the house, constantly playing music in the car, singing all the time. It was just something that I was always surrounded by and something that was a big part of my life. My earliest memories of being a child were sitting in the back of my mum's Vauxhall Nova back in the 90s and listening to Queen, the Eagles, Bryan Adams, Bruce Springsteen, just a lot of dad rock as it's called now, but a lot of those like bands like the Eagles, everything really, really shaped and formed my musical tastes and what I was really into. So I really developed a keen sense of I love singing. So anytime those songs came on, it would always be, just singing in the family or singing in the back of the car. And that really influenced my kind of like musical passion. Whenever I went to big school, went into secondary school, I was so excited. The one thing I was so excited for, like everybody's excited for, like, club societies and, sports teams, whatever. But I was so excited to join the choir. I was like, they've got a choir. I'm so excited because my primary school didn't have anything like that. So the opportunity to sing in a choir for 7 years, just like that was just perfect for me, from singing classic songs to modern songs such as from Snow Patrol and trying to think what we did, David Bowie, that kind of stuff there, the Beatles. So a lot of that there was very formative in my years. But yeah, um, in terms of my kind of like finding music, I mean, I used to read my dad's CD collection all the time. Like, just used to go in, take CDs to burn on my iPod, and like I'd be going into school with like AC/DC and Green Day and those kind of bands there. So I found music by myself, but really punk rock was the genre that I really loved the most. So it was, and that was from 2004's American Idiot by Green Day. That was the one album that just that put me on the track for punk rock music. So yeah, that's my early years of where I developed my musical passion and taste, and yeah.
I think I'm kind of horrified that you talk about it as dad rock. I still think of those artists and albums as recent. Your childhood and mine are about 20 years apart, but I so much of how you described about learning about music from your parents' tastes. In my case, it was, in the back of my dad's Hillman Hunter in the late 70s and early 80s, like listening to Johnny Cash on 4 track.
Yeah.
But it's that way that music gets across to the next generation. They hear their parents play it. It becomes part of either what they accept into themselves or what they rebel against.
No, absolutely. I agree with that.
But I suppose going on from there, the some of the sounds that you hear may be influential, but you don't always kind of want to. I won't say don't want to acknowledge them, but I suppose the way I phrase the next question is there an artist that you admire deeply, but you've actively tried not to sound like?
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of artists that I would love to sound like, but because just due to my limited skills and also just like my own kind of like creative style, it's very different. I mean, like what you were just saying there about like musical influences and stuff like that. I would go back and listen to a lot of bands like the Eagles or Bruce Springsteen or Brian Adams. I would go back and listen to those bands and artists more as like a musical reset for myself because if I've been I would mainly listen to punk rock music. It's mainly from modern punk rock all the way back to the 70s. Like I am a big Ramones fan. The Ramones are one of the biggest influences, especially Dee Dee Ramone with his bass playing style. A lot of downstroke, very fast, very just on the pulse. But I don't want to, copy it, if you know what I mean. But it's a big influence. But whenever I get, like fatigued from listening to the same kind of style of music, I will go back and listen to something that I haven't listened to in ages, or I'll like hit the reset and play something that's just is not in my realm. Like, like I mean, this morning I was listening to Run the Jewels, the rap group from America, and I absolutely love Run the Jewels, but I haven't listened to them in ages. But it was just more of a wee thing of like, yeah, just gonna hit reset and just have something different before because I've been writing a bit, and I was like, I need to change up just what I'm listening to, just maybe get some inspo, or maybe just like, yeah, just to freshen up everything. But in terms of like artists that I really look up to, the Ramones would definitely be one, definitely for that punk sound. They're just the pioneers of the sound, and just you can't beat their first album. The Ramones' debut album is probably the best punk album of all time, in my opinion. Bands like the Gaslight Anthem, more modern, the Messengers, kind of like that Americana blues punk, which I really really like that sound. And then bands like The Story So Far and Neck Deep, modern pop punk, State Champs. Love those bands, but it's I wouldn't want to sound like them. I try not to sound like them. That's what Cavalier Attitude's always been. That the name has always been doing it how I want to do it, and it's my way of doing it. And I don't really care how it comes across. Like that's just me personally, and that's how my representation of the sound comes across. So yeah.
You remind me of the joke about academia that if you steal from one person, it's plagiarism, but if you steal from many, it's research.
Yeah.
And a lot of the musicians I've talked to about this that care and think deeply about trying not to sound like their influences are very aware of this, that nobody wants to be the next Bob Dylan. We already have a Bob Dylan. He's great. We already have a Springsteen. We don't need Springsteen Mark II, but we do need somebody that brings themselves, the culmination of their influences. And I think it applies to you. It applies to anybody that thinks deeply about their craft. That there's there's an acknowledgement that those sources are there, that they have shaped us, but at the same time, they don't define us.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of one of the interesting things that I've gotten from talking to yourself and to others as
Yeah.
well.
I would
Um,
definitely agree with that. Yeah.
as an aside, I'm gonna ask you about the name Cavalier Attitude. I've always imagined that it was a rather harsh comment by somebody's teacher.
No, no, it was
Maybe I'm just telling more about myself.
it's actually a really funny story. It was so whenever I came back from university, or sorry, yeah, whenever I was away to university for my teaching degree, I'd written one song that was from my previous band called Mug by Ghost. And whenever we split up, it was mainly because, we were all going our separate ways. I was away to Liverpool for teaching. our lead singer Jordan was away to Boston for a year abroad over there to work there. We all went our separate ways, but I had written this one song called Dread and Doubt, and I was like, I really want to write, I want to record it, I want to put it out there and just test the water. And I was toying with names, and one of my friends from years ago, we were at a brand new friend gig back in the American bar. I think this must have been about like 2018 or something. And we were walking, and I was like, oh, I need to find a good name. And he was like, you love Cavalier King Charles the dogs? And I went, yeah, I absolutely love those dogs. And he goes, but also you kind of have like a Cavalier attitude. And I went, mate, that's a great name. So it's because of my attitude of like how I want to do the music, of like, it's my sound, it's our sound, it's how I want it to go, but also my love for the dogs. And that's why the logo is my old pet dog, Rowan. So yeah, so it's a mixture of love for the dogs and, my own brashness
I
about it,
would not have guessed that
Yeah.
backstory.
So yeah, but I would definitely credit brand new friend, because it was after that gig I was like, right, we need to get this in motion here, because I want to try and get this song out here, and then we'll just get to keep the ball rolling. So
Yeah, Brand New Friend are a wonderful band. I haven't seen them nearly enough play live.
yeah.
You talked about writing, and I kind of want to move us on to kind of more of your present state. So, how do you handle the point of the song where it stops working? It's easy
Um,
about, I wrote this, it's wonderful, everybody loves it. But I think the more unusual question, the more interesting one to my mind, is what happens when it doesn't work?
so I have two very special people in my life called Jordan and Chris. So whenever I get a song and I'm like, guys, I don't know what to do, I just take it to them. They're just like, what do you think? So I mean, it really depends on the song. So I don't know how to play guitar. I only know how to play bass, and that's all by ear and self-taught. So it is. Um, so whenever I'm writing a song, it's always the bass line. And to me, that's I've always said this to like the guys, but anybody I talk to about music, our sound is always the bass line runs through the entire song. And it always does in every song, but the bass line runs through the entire song. It carries the song. And I always try and influence that there with my style, but also that's my writing. So if I always just imagine, well, if I'm starting off here, I want to finish here. And that's just going to have to carry the whole way through. When it gets to the point of I've maybe got the bass line done and the lyrics are coming, I can write a verse. I can chat loads. I can tell a story. But when it comes to that like repetition in the chorus, and that's whenever I start going, oh, this is a wee bit. I start thinking about it too much. I don't like naturally let it go and let it flow. So that's wherever I go. Right, Jordan, Chris, what do you think of this here? And then we work on it together. So it's always a collaborative project, but it's always it always starts off with the bass line and then works from there. If you know what I mean. So yeah.
That's interesting because, certainly in the popular imagination, you have the one gifted songwriter, and the rest of them just turn up and play their instruments. And the longer I'm around actual musicians, I get to understand that that is simply not true.
It's not, and but it's an amazing experience. Like with Cavalier Attitude, there's four of us, and we all write. Like we all bring something together, and it could just be, I've got this drum part, I've got this bass line, I've got this melody. What can we do with it? Our first album that we released last year, Heartbreaks and Hangover, that was a amalgamation of Jordan's writing and Chris's writing, and it was just little bits and pieces from myself and AJ throughout, but it's just great that all four of us can write and that we can all come together to get that one sound. We all have different influences, like that, and that's even better because I like old school punk. Chris likes rock music. AJ likes a lot of alternative stuff, and Jordan's in the very like Midwest emo kind of like acoustic guitar stuff. But all that works. Like we all come together and it works and it makes that sound. So it's a nice combo. It's a nice mix,
Mentioned an album. Could you say that name again and tell people where they might be able to find it?
So we released our debut album called Heartbreak and Hangovers. It is on Spotify and Apple Music, on all streaming platforms, and we released it last summer. In when did we release it? June of 2025. We released that, and it's our first ever album, and so proud of it. So proud of it. I've actually got it in a frame over on my wall there. Because it's just, yeah, it's one of those things. I'm just very proud of the accomplishment that we did, because releasing singles, releasing EPs, absolutely love doing that. But when you get your first album, it means a lot. So it does. That's your artwork, that's your craft, all in one place, and that's like the finished product where you go, "This is us. This is where we're at. Boom. Hope you enjoy it." You know what I mean? So
Yep.
yeah.
If I remember correctly, I was at the album launch for that.
Yes, you were. Yeah, and it was a great show. It was a great show.
It was a great show. Um, can I just kind of move you forward a little and
Of course.
ask you about, can you point to a turning point in your musical career, like a gig, a conversation, a decision that kind of changed you from the trajectory you were on to where you're going today?
Yeah, I think it would have been a few years ago now. So, like I said, I've been on the music scene since about 2017. The first band I ever played in was called Mud by a Ghost. Now, the lovely thing about that was it was a band that I was in with Jordan and Chris, who are also in Cavalier Attitude. So all three of us have been in bands together, like we've been in two bands with each other. I always think Cavalier Attitude's just Mud by a Ghost 2.0. It's just it's where we've learnt how to navigate the music scene, how we've learned to navigate life and measure our expectations and know exactly what we want from a project. So, whenever we were in Milk by a Ghost, we released a song called Wasting Our 20s. And we were like 23 to 21, right? So this is our first ever band. Like we were like, oh, we're in the studio. What's going to happen is we're going to release a song. Kerrang are going to find it. We're going to be picked up. We're going to be playing a festival. Like, it was very like, somebody's going to find it. Somebody's going to blow us up. We didn't have any expectation. We didn't have any like realistic expectations. It was like, this is what's going to happen. But we didn't know how to navigate it. So with the lessons from Mode by Ghost, it kind of taught me like how to market music, how to collab with people, how to network, how to use social media in the correct way. Like if you look at our social media, it's still online. Our social media was just random band posters of like gigs we're playing, but there was never any like content to get people, getting to know us and about the music and about the band. It was just right, we're playing a gig, somebody's going to come to the gig and we're going to get discovered. It was very much like that there. So I think whenever Mug by Ghost finished in 2019, um, having that time together to then start a Cavalier Attitude, it was actually really good to reflect and go back and go, right, we did that with Mud by Ghost. We're not going to do that with Cavalier Attitude. We're going to do something different. We're going to do it this way. And we've seen the rewards. And I mean, we've been going from strength to strength, and it's just been amazing just to see that difference. But I always say to Chris and Jordan, just whenever we're sitting there having a drink or we're reflecting on the old days, it's just like, remember that time we released that song? We thought this was going to happen, but like, look how we're doing it now. Do you know what I mean? It's being a young band. It's great. You've got so much energy. You've got so many ideas, but you don't have like anybody to guide you. And I wish we did have somebody to guide us or give us that like expertise. But I would definitely say 2019, whenever we finished, was whenever I was like, right, this is how I'm going to do this, and getting Cavalier Attitude started and getting guys back and stuff like that there. So I would definitely say that was the major turning point in the trajectory, because it was kind of like aimless, but now this is focused. So it is. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a really interesting point. I was at an all day show for a number of metal bands there recently, and they're I don't think any of them would really mind me saying it. They're slightly an older generation
Yeah.
of bands that were playing this particular gig, and the I was having a wonderful conversation with one member of a particular band, and he was saying that, or it had started that I had found it difficult to contact some of these bands because they might have a Facebook presence, but it hasn't been updated in a while, or they're not looking at their messages, and I'm trying to contact them and ask them for permission to come along and film,
Yeah.
and he was using that to lead into that the differentiator in his perspective between bands of his generation that have been around maybe 2+ decades and the newer younger folks is that you know how to use social media to your advantage, and that as digital natives, that you understand the value of this, and that you understand the importance of presenting a brand to the world. And I think it's something that all of us have to get better at.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's definitely something that it takes a lot of trial and effort, and it takes a lot of know-how in terms of, how to go about it, because it just going back to the Mobile Ghost days, it was very much like, here's the poster. We took some band photos, like, my mate had a camera. It was like, can you come take photos of us in Belfast? Yeah, sure, no bother. Those photos were used, but it was never really updated, and we never really understood like how to go about, navigating it. But then whenever co- um Cavalier came about, we kind of had more know-how. It was like, right, we're releasing a single, whatever it might be. Right, here's a checklist. We need to have brand new band photos. We need to have artwork already sorted. We need to have, a timeline of social media posts and all. I mean, like whenever we started out, I would have actually sat here in this room, and I would have had a massive spreadsheet of the month, and I would have literally gone, right, this photo's on this day, then we're using our story for promote. Then this photos for this day, had all the captions written out. Everything was loaded and preloaded on this spreadsheet. So basically, all I had to do was go, right, Monday we're doing this, Tuesday's that, Wednesday's that, Thursday's that, Friday's that. Boom, we're sorted. Links and everything. So it was actually really handy. But I only knew that because I sat down and researched it, but also I did a course at the Northwest Regional College online during COVID, and it was very, very helpful. It was a music industry skills course, and it was just the value of social media, the value of basically putting. I don't want to sound like conceited, but like but all artists do this. It's putting worth on your art in terms of like, because I know a lot of people go, oh, I don't want to be like, selling stuff and all, or like I feel really awkward like selling like, this year, but that's what you have to do. You are creating a product and you're creating your art. It has to be valued in a certain way. So this course basically just taught me everything just in terms of like how to actually go about, you know, functioning as a band in terms of the stuff in the background, not the music, but the stuff in the background that you need to have sorted, like, that kind of stuff there. So I would definitely say social media plays such a big part. I mean, I'm getting to the point now where I'm 32. I have got TikTok for Cavalier Attitude and motion sickness. And I find TikTok just such a minefield to navigate, because to me, if I'm like out there with a phone in my face, I just find it really awkward in terms of promoting myself. But I know I need to do it. But for motion sickness, but I'm just like in my head, I'm like, this is weird. But I know it's the known thing to do because so many bands are now moving to TikTok. Obviously, Instagram and Facebook are big things, but TikTok's obviously where you get that one moment, something viral could happen, you get picked up, and then your music gets discovered. Like it could happen. So yeah, it's navigating all these different
so
apps
you,
and
you
everything.
reckon TikTok is where it's happening for bands right now?
I think TikTok's where it's happening whenever it comes to kind of like your music being like, it could only maybe take like 10 seconds, 20 seconds of a song. Somebody goes, oh, wow, that song's great. Like, and then that's an earworm. And then, they might see your stuff and follow you and then see it over and over again. But bands have been using TikTok really well, for campaigns and stuff. And it could just be playing the chorus over and over again in the same video where they're doing different things, but it works and it gets the music across and people take an interest. But I would definitely say TikTok's more of a, how would you like do like interactive, like in terms of like you're on your phone doing that there, but more in the sense of like all you need is swipe and you discover somebody. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's a very easy to navigate and very easy to access form of social media, because Instagram's obviously algorithms are different and stuff like that there, but TikTok's a lot more accessible in my opinion.
It's an interesting insight because I, from the other side of it, I'd noticed that, say, even 5, 6 years ago, you would have bands having their primary social media outlet being Facebook.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
now there's a lot of bands that either don't really maintain a Facebook page, which I think is a terrible idea. Either you have it or you don't. But a lot of bands just simply don't have a Facebook presence.
Yeah, I'd agree with
And,
that there.
talking to my own kids, that they're going, yeah, there's not a lot of, people in their teens and 20s and, even a little bit older that, it's it's people, Gen Xers like me that are, and my boomer parents who are still on Facebook, and all the cool kids have moved on to, to Instagram, or now on to
Yeah.
TikTok. I admit I can't get my head around TikTok. I find it far too irritating. But I think that is probably an artifact of my age and disposition rather than anything against it.
I would definitely say that a lot of bands, like I find that for bands now, Instagram's the main one. Like Instagram's where is your hub. Facebook's obviously an extension because obviously Meta and they're all linked. And I mean, like I remember that's how we would have like you would have found gigs or you would have known about gigs was either through Facebook, through events, because you followed pages or bands, or through like across the line on BBC, like, when they gave the live schedule and stuff like that there and update it. But Facebook was such a big one, especially with the event page where, we create an event. Are you going? Yes, no interest, or whatever it might be. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, I definitely would agree that it used to be Facebook, but now I find that Instagram's the main that's the hub. That's where your music goes. And that's why it's so important that whenever you are producing music and marketing your music that it's looking professional because when now to back then the jump from bands who are actually taking it seriously and doing photo shoots and doing, like really putting effort into their art and their foot and photography, it's come up so much. Like you compare bands from now to bands 10 years ago, it's night and day. Bands are taking it more seriously, so they are because they understand the importance of social media and projecting that image and showing what they can do and what their art reflects of them. So it's definitely changed since then. Like bands take it more seriously.
So, what I'm hearing is there's a key takeaway here that if you want to be serious about your music as a career, get some kind of, course, qualification, experience with that marketing side.
I mean, it's helpful. It is helpful. I mean, I did it and there were things that I was like, oh, didn't think of that there, like music licensing. I didn't realize that like if a song that somebody had written or like a song that I'd written or a song that Jordan had written, something like that there, if that gets played in the bar, he like say for example, Jordan one of his songs got played in the bar, he'll get money from those rights to him because his song was played in the bar and the bar has to pay music licensing fees. Didn't know that. Did not know that one bit. Your music gets played in the radio. If you don't have your music, is it PRS, whatever it is, it's your license, your whatever it is. If you don't have that and your music gets played in radio, you're missing out on money that you could be getting. And depending on the radio station, could be BBC, could be RT, whatever it might be, they're still paying out because they have to pay for a license. So artists are missing out on a lot of these things. So it's great that, you've got stuff on Spotify, but if you're getting like hundredth of a penny, per stream compared to 20 quid a month or something from like your music being played in radio, you're going to go for the radio stuff and, market that there. So there's a lot of stuff I didn't know from, before doing that marketing course, but now I do. It makes sense. But I don't think everybody knows that and has access to that information, which is just mind boggling.
A slightly different but related perspective on this is, um, if you hang out around me long enough, you'll first of all find out that one of my collection of hobbies is wood turning. And if you
Yeah.
hang out for even longer, you'll possibly end up in possession of at least a bowl or do a light pull or something like that. And like a lot of things I do, people say, "Oh, would you not consider, turning this into a business?"
Yeah.
And there's a lot of good reasons why you should, and there's even, to my mind, a lot of good reasons why you shouldn't. And one of them is that I've got a day job, and that's great. It pays for a lot of things, and I'm very grateful for it. But once you start taking this happy hobby that brings you pleasure and joy seriously, you have to commit to the fact that you're an accountant who does this other stuff. And you're the marketing department, you're the sales department.
Yeah.
And I've turned against that idea because I I got into wood turning to do wood turning.
Yeah.
I want to turn lumps of wood into slightly rounder lumps of wood. I get a great mental health benefit from it. I don't want to spend my evenings thinking, what is my next 5-year business plan?
Yeah.
And I realize that coming from a huge place of privilege. But I think, if you are a person who wants your music to be your business, you have to take it seriously.
Of
You
course you do.
have to, know what the ins and outs are, what the pitfalls are, and how you best turn it from this nice hobby. And I like playing guitar and I like playing nice tunes with my friends into something that's actually sustainable.
Well, if you've hit the nail on the head there. Like, it's obviously a hobby and something that you really enjoy. But like for bands, stuff like that, there, if you're not taking your art seriously, why should anybody else take your art seriously? If you're not going to put the time and effort into your art and your, like, not just the music you're producing, not just the social media. I know we've talked about social media, but your live performance, like, you are providing an experience. Do you know what I mean? If you're not putting the time and effort into all those different things, why should anybody care? Why would anybody want to come down? Do you know what I mean? It is one of those things where if you show that you're putting the time and effort into it, people be going, "Flip, they're really on to something," and they really do take you seriously. Because then it turns out to be, oh no, he's just in his wee hobbies. He just likes playing guitar. He's in a wee band and all. But whenever you're like, no, actually, we're playing shows and we're selling out shows. We've got an album out. People are like, "Oh, flip, right? You're actually doing this?" Like,
Maybe
yeah.
you're making something of this then.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like, it's like, "Oh, he's in wee bands." It's like, "Oh, I didn't know you were playing like this venue." It's like, "Yeah, yeah, that's just what we're doing." But you know what I mean? It's if you don't take yourself seriously, why should anybody else?
This leads me very smoothly on to
Ooh.
the next question because
Yeah,
I have developed an obsession and a love with what is broadly called the Belfast scene,
yeah.
and there it's a collection of fantastic venues, amazing promoters, wonderful bands. And I suppose the question I have for you is, what are those venues and spaces that really mean a lot to you, and why?
Ooh, that's a good question. In terms of like the Belfast music scene, there are so many venues, and we are very fortunate to be from an area where there are so many venues. Whenever I used to live in Liverpool, when it came to local venues, not that many. So whenever living in Belfast for the music scene, we are very blessed. In this part of the country. Um, in terms of venues that mean just a lot to me, oh my goodness, I would have to say Voodoo's definitely one of them. Voodoo's for me. Voodoo's that like epicenter of alternative music, alternative culture, just every kind of alternative person has been to Voodoo or goes to Voodoo. Do you know what I mean? But for me, it's not just the fact that it's that epicenter, it's where bands that I absolutely love and adore have played and graced the stage. And I've been in that crowd going, I want to be like that. I want that opportunity. It got we headlined Voodoo last year, and it was our first ever headline. And I remember I was in the bathroom, and I was in the bathroom looking in the mirror, and I just went, "Modern Baseball played here like 10 years ago." I was like, and I remember being the crowd for Modern Baseball going, "One day we're going to do that." And then 10 years later, we're headlining, and I was like, "This is just amazing." But Voodoo's definitely one of them. Another venue that really, well, it's not round anymore, but it meant a lot to me was Bar Sub in Queen's University. Now, obviously, we have the Union Bar, obviously with the redevelopment and all, but for me, Bar Sub was such an important venue. Like the amount of small bands who came on tour whenever they could, it meant so much. Like I remember seeing one of my favorite bands of all time, State Champs. They came, and it was the most amazing show because there was only like 100, 200 people in the room. But those guys stayed behind after the show and were speaking to everybody, and it meant a lot. So did so. I would say Bar Sub, Voodoo, um, you know, venues that would have like a soft spot for like a special place. I mean, there's venues that I would love to play, but we haven't played them yet. But would like to, like, Limelight, something like that. They would love to play the Limelight. Would love to play the one that I would love to play the most is the Ulster Hall. I think the Ulster Hall is just an amazing venue for live music. Been there for the NI Music Prize, and my school did. We years ago we did a show for school, but I remember standing on that stage going, "This is where the Ramones played. This is where Stairway to Heaven was played for the first time. This is an incredible venue." And you know, it's, I don't know, for me, it's a pinnacle. I think Ulster Hall would be fantastic, but yeah, I would
I
say,
can't go to the Ulster Hall without feeling, I don't want to say the weight of history, but just kind of like the cloak of history, that there's, so many fantastic performers have, been on that stage. Though,
Yeah,
yeah, the one that always stands out for me is that, contrary to what a lot of people will tell you, that is where Stairway to Heaven was first performed. You know, Rory Gallagher, I think, still has the record for like the most performances, modern rock performances in that venue. I was there last week for Sugar, for a band that I never thought I would see live.
yeah,
Like they've been broken up for much longer than they were ever together, and just kind of sitting there. I was up in the balcony, and I was like looking out across the crowd and across the stage, and going, "Wow." Like, I've seen great bands here. There have been so many here. And actually, as you were starting to answer that question, I thought, I don't know what you're going to come out with first, but I know that I'm not gonna disagree with it, because there are so many great venues in this town, and whoever you're gonna say,
yeah,
I probably have been there, and I probably love it too.
yeah,
And you said Voodoo, and such a great place. I I always remember, like, the years ago, I would have walked past it. I didn't know it had a music venue in it.
yeah,
Um, I'm not much of a bar drinker.
yeah,
Um, I I drink too much, but I don't do it in bars. Um, and I can't even remember what the first band that I saw in Voodoo was. But, like, I looked at all the most goth man I know always talked about how great a time he had in Voodoo, and I thought, you know, I'm not sure I'm gonna be welcome in a place like that. And I remember being quite tentative walking past the bouncers going in there, and they smiled and they didn't turn me away, and I went to the bar and I ordered a drink, and they were lovely, and
yeah,
I just thought, I've totally had the wrong idea about this place. They're really welcoming, they're really accepting. The bar people were fantastic,
yeah.
and then I went upstairs for the gig, and I kinda got lost because 'cause I'd forgotten that you have to, or didn't know that you have to go out and then come in through the other door.
That's right. Yeah, yeah,
And, over the intervening years, Voodoo has just become such a favorite place, and the one thing that really stands out for me there is, the Voodoo sessions, and, like, Jerry Norman behind those is
oh,
just such a force for good for those, and
he's such a legend though. Jerry is he's a gem. He's an absolute gem. We're so lucky to have him. From putting on the voodoo
absolutely.
sessions to
The one person I would put in the same bracket and isn't up on stage and doesn't do all the announcements is Andrew Coles. Like, that man makes so many bands sound
yeah,
absolutely wonderful, and he is literally at the back of the room in the darkness, and so many people don't know who he is, don't know what he does, but he is one of my heroes of our local scene, and he's you know in such a great venue.
yeah. No, I would agree with that there. And I mean the effort that's put in there. Like I remember Jerry would have been one of the people that I was very fortunate to have met who kind of guided me and the guys and like how to go about things. Like he was that fountain of knowledge that was able to go, oh well, have you spoken to this person or have you done this? Like like having those people in those venues, it means so much because it's the next generation passing the knowledge down and keeping the music scene alive. It's vital. It is vital, and just yeah, very thankful for it.
The only thing I would say is, bar sub I was never in.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, I came to Belfast in '97, and kind of was around the university for a bit, but didn't study there.
yeah.
Like, I heard about gigs going on there, but I will say, like, the new Mandela Hall is fantastic,
It's really
and
good.
the Union Bar space upstairs where the motion sickness gigs are is just is
It's
wonderful.
fantastic. It's really good, and for the size of the room and making it such an intimate gig, it's the perfect place. That's yeah, it's a great venue. It's a great spot to pick for the most sickness gigs. Yeah,
Bringing us from the present into the future. Can I ask you, what are you working on right now that you're genuinely excited about that you want and can tell people about?
Yeah. So in terms of band stuff, we are writing we are trying to write new stuff, but we're also looking forward to new shows. We took a little break. We had a lot of burnout where we were just like, we need a break because we're playing show after show after show. And I just got to the point where it was like, right, we need a we need a break. So we're getting back into it with the gigs over the summer, and then obviously the writing as well, because we're also just champing at the bit to get new material out, and we've got loads of ideas. So we're just trying to get us all together to write, which I'm really looking forward to. In terms of the motion sickness stuff, I'm really excited for what's to come. Um, we've all well, I always say we, but it's me. But I don't like using that I because I just feel like I just don't know. I just don't like that being the focal point. I just don't know. It's not for me. But I've had two, it's even uncomfortable. I've had two shows already with motion sickness, and it's already been going really well. The third one is in June. I've already had, and that's a crazy one because it's a band from America on tour who reached out to say, can you help us? We're on tour. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. That would be great. So able to put on local bands with international acts. But the amount of messages I've received from bands from down south, from around Ireland, has been crazy. I've received messages from bands in America, from bands in England as well, who want to come over and play because they see how the shows are going and also that there. It's just incredible. From what I sat at, like, I think it was like Christmas time, and I had all the ideas, had everything all set out. And I was like, right, we're doing 4 shows. We're doing one spring, one summer, one in autumn, one winter. It's turned into more than that, which I wasn't expecting. And the reception I wasn't expecting. In terms of that, there, in terms of the motion sickness shows, I've had more bands come out and reach out in terms of helping with single launches, with EP launches, stuff like that. So there's stuff in the pipeline that I can't announce yet because it's still in the process of getting sorted. But I've had bands reach out who want shows put on for EPs and singles, which I'm really thankful for. They want to come out and ask, and I really want to help them. As well as that, I am looking to start helping bands in another way in terms of their social media. So in terms of how, because it's how you go about launching a single, how you go about launching an EP or an album. What do you need to have? What do you need to do to prepare yourself? What needs to be off that checklist? That kind of thing there. So I'm already drafting up plans to try and help bands for launching a single, an EP, an album, what they need to have in their checklists, what they need to make sure they're doing, and how their social media is going to look. So I'm in the process of getting that started. So hopefully by the summertime that kicks off as well. But just another thing for motion sickness to help create a community for pop punk, emo, and alternative music in Belfast, because there is a scene here, and I've said this so many times. There's a scene here, and there are people here that want it. It's just somebody needed to take the step forward and put it on, and I was happy enough because from going down to Dublin all the time, I would be in Dublin quite a bit for gigs, and my friend Oscar down there, who runs Outcast Promotions, shout out Outcast for what they do, because the scene down there in Dublin is crazy. We went, Jordan and I went down to a gig, and it was a Sunday night. Sunday night in Belfast, you're not going to get a big crowd. It's a given, so it is. Dublin, all my days, they were out the door for this show, and it was a band from Manchester who come on. Am I allowed to swear in this?
Probably best if you don't.
I was going to say their name has a swear word in it, so I'm just going to,
Well,
yeah.
in that case, it's a quote. Go for it.
Okay, so the band's name's called Crywank, and they had yeah, so that's why I had to ask. And so they were playing in Dublin, and they had two bands on from Dublin, and it was a Sunday night, and I was like, oh no, sorry, it was an artist from Canada and a support local opening band. And me, I was saying to Jordan, like, where are these people coming from? Like, how is this? Like, this scene is mental down here. And I was like, I would love for us to have that for like the music that we play, but also the music that I know people enjoy. Belfast is crying out for it, especially with our history with punk rock and alternative music. Like, why don't we have this? So if I can help in any way, I will try my best and try and to do what I can.
I love that outlook. I can say from my perspective, I got to the second motion sickness event with North Ghost, Plaster Cast, Picture Postcard,
And the
and
last
The
resort.
Last Resort, the
Yeah,
fabulous The Last
yeah,
Resort.
right.
And yeah, I loved that, and this will be going out after the next one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll be there for that, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Looking forward to it. I mean, it's they've been great, and I mean, for every show that I'm doing, I'm trying to stick to what I set out my targets were, which was giving young bands a platform to play on, giving bands from across Ireland a chance to play in Belfast, and trying to create something that people can be proud of and be a part of, and create community where they feel safe to enjoy this kind of music. So, yeah, that's those are the aims, and sticking to them.
We like that. So this is the part where I ask you the kind of sign off question. If you could go back and do one thing differently, what would it be?
Oh my goodness. Oh, easy. I actually asked my mum and dad, can I have guitar lessons, please, so I can actually learn how to play chords on the guitar? Because, honest to God, our practice room is so confusing. If, like, Jordan and Chris, they'll be like, "Oh, play this chord." Well, what is the chord? Oh, it's this. I'm going, give me the number because I know by tab. That's I'm all. So they've got notes. I've got numbers in my head. So I would definitely say, yeah, mum and dad, can I get some guitar lessons, please? Because I really, really need them for the future.
This is a good piece of advice.
Yep, yep. If you're one that's good, get those guitar lessons or piano lessons maybe as well. But yeah, just so that you can actually get that kind of like musical education, which I never got. But thankfully, everything's by ear now, so I can hear it, I can play it, I'm fine. But yeah,
You said at the beginning how your introduction to music, though 2 decades apart, was very similar to mine.
yeah,
This is one place where we absolutely differ. My parents, you couldn't look sideways at an instrument without my parents going, "We'll get you lessons." And I have three very, very talented siblings, and I'm the one that has zero musical ability, and I can't sing, I can't play. My parents sent me to every lesson you could imagine, and I just wasted their money. Uh, but,
but you
you know, it
appreciate music. That's the important thing.
well, I suppose the piece that I came away with at the end of it was a huge appreciation for those who can do it.
Yeah, yeah,
And, this is, kind of part of what drives what I do and, going out and filming bands and,
yeah.
and partly this podcast.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with you. And I mean, I've been very fortunate in the short career that I've worked, been playing music in Belfast. I've worked with some of the most amazing individuals ever, like on the music scene, like from Jordan McMurray, who to me, I know him, but I tell him this all the time. He is one of my most favorite songwriters from what he does, from what he can do. He released an EP many years ago called The Midwest. And to me, that is one of the most amazing acoustic EPs and like Midwest emo music from Northern Ireland ever. Like Jordan is just hands down. You can keep your Rory Gallagher. I've got Chris Jones in my band, and he is the best guitarist ever. AJ as well. AJ's a fantastic drummer who brings such a dynamic to the band. And our previous drummer, Thomas Duff McKenzie, he was a wealth of knowledge in the music scene. He was fantastic on the drums and he knew just how to get a crowd going and exactly what we needed to do. So I've worked with some amazing individuals and I'm very thankful. And there are some amazing people on the scene who I've become friends with through going to gigs and networking and stuff who I'm just very thankful for. And I think in terms of like the music scene here, we have so many individuals that it makes such a healthy scene that it makes others jealous, which I'm really happy about. Because whenever I lived in Liverpool, they used to go, "Oh, but like, how do you do? Like, how can you guys do that?" Like, and I'm like, "Because we're all in it together. It's a local music scene. Like Liverpool didn't have that, but here in Belfast, we've got in bucket loads, and it's absolutely amazing."
There's a lot that I'd love to pursue on that. It's like, because you've obviously seen the music scene from, from Liverpool, from Belfast, from and Dublin, and the there is a central question with this podcast is, what is that scene? What are the good things about it? What are the bad things? And what are our differentiators? What makes us here good or bad? And as I've said to other people, I realize as a non-musician who is not trying to make a living out of this, I'm coming along and doing my hobby by pointing cameras at people. Uh, I get a very different vision of what the scene is about than other people. But you've clicked on some of the positives that I've seen. That networking thing, the mutual support, and I've seen you know people in young bands talking to the bands that are just coming off stage and kind of asking those really basic questions like, how did you do this?
Yeah,
How do you get on that stage? And they're saying, let me introduce you to this person. And the other part of that kind of mutual support network, that it's so lovely that, I've got the camera pointing up at that magic that's happening on stage, and I turn my head and I look round into the audience and I go, oh, yeah, there's like two guys from that band. She's from that band. And, yeah, they're all friends. They're all coming out to support each other, and they're loving each other's music, and they're helping build each other's audience. And I think that is wonderful.
I think a big thing is compared to other music scenes, the Belfast music scene I find is there is no ego. You don't go in and you go, oh, that band there, they think so much of themselves. There's none of that. You go in and there's bands helping younger bands, which is just so amazing to see. Like everybody knows somebody in a band from the Belfast music scene. Everybody knows, like, you go to Blackstaff Mill in the practice space and you're walking down that corridor to your 2 hour slot and you're bumping into people from, like, you play with them the night before, you play with them, like, or you're going to play with them next week, or you know what I mean. Everybody is supportive and everybody wants to help push the scene on. I think we have such an envious scene where we have, number one, we have amazing bands and musicians, first of all. Number two, we have amazing people doing videography, doing photography, doing promotion, doing live reviews, doing everything like that. Like, the coverage that we have here, it's crazy. Like, you think of all the websites, all the YouTube channels, all the TikToks, there are so many different, like, forms of media that bands have to showcase them and expose them to, like, a brand new audience. Like, it's amazing. We also have some, like, amazing venues ranging from the smallest of small venues to, like, like cozy venues for intimate acoustic shows to massive venues. Like, think of Mandela. Mandela runs levels on a Thursday night. Is it once a month or something like that there? Something like that.
It depends.
Yeah, it
There,
depends. Yeah, but you think of a venue, the capacity of Mandela going, here, we're going to let 3 or 4 local bands just jump on stage and we're going to bring the crowd in. You're not going to get that anywhere. It's just, I think we are just such a musical play. Like, Ireland in general, we have such a love and adoration for music that I think it just transcends in everything that we do. And I think that carries on our local music scene where we have amazing bands, we have amazing venues, we have amazing people working in the background. And we're all there for the love of music and to support each other. So we are. And if one of us gets, if somebody takes off, we're all taking off with them because it's just amazing because we're all together. It's just fantastic.
I'm not going to challenge you on any of this because,
No, you're all
uh,
right.
I will say I've met some people that have fairly large egos about their music.
Yeah.
Um, but you paint a very positive picture of the scene, and I would largely agree with almost all of it.
Yeah.
There's some parts of it that I don't think are as healthy, as happy. You talk about levels, which I think is one of the great ideas. And I was down for it there last week They had Mr. Pink opened, Rhea Timken second up, and Aqua Tofana.
Yes.
All three of them amazing acts. And once again, because I've rarely been there for levels when there's anything like an appropriate crowd for that room. And, certainly by, the last act of the evening, the crowd is already thinning out. And, it's a Thursday in a university. There's a bar there. This place should be heaving with people. And I think it's one of the things that for this scene to survive in the long term, we do need to address. And I don't really know how we're going to do that. And, but it's, put it this way, if you'd been really negative, I would have spouted all the positives. But, this is to bring balance to the
Robert,
force.
we still have time. Me and you, we can sort the Belfast music scene in this podcast. Let's sit down. Don't worry about when it's going out. We can sit here and talk about it all through.
So, the most difficult thing about this podcast is the first 3 hours.
Yeah.
Let's do our last question. This is
Yeah.
where you get to turn the tables on me. Do you have a question for me?
Yeah. So my question for you is, what got you into being a videographer? In terms of what made you go, right, I'm going to bring my camera, I'm going to record all these bands, and I'm going to upload them, share them, and everything. Like, what made you want to do that?
To the point, first of all, where I dislike and I refuse to use the term videographer.
Okay.
Because I do this for free, I reckon I can use whatever term I like. If you're employing me as a videographer, then
Yeah.
I'm a videographer.
Yeah.
I've decided that what I am is a short form documentary maker.
I love that.
And,
I love that.
and I make, like, if there's 3 bands on stage, I make 3 documentaries a night. And so you shared this question with me earlier, which is good because it gave me a little bit of time to do a bit of research. And I've loved live music all my life. And like my first gig was like 1980 something. I saw Madness in Leisureland in Galway, and I got there early. I was in the front row. I had the time of my life. My ears didn't stop ringing for about 3 days after it. I then decided to have a career in archaeology, which meant that I didn't have money to go to gigs for years. And on top of that, I decided to have children, which meant that I had no money or time to go to gigs.
Yeah.
And a few years ago, I had my kids started getting a bit older. I moved out of archaeology into a much less, well, let's say not as exciting a career, but one that I can really rely on. It was working in IT. And I now have both the time and the money, and I start going to gigs, and I've loved them. I really, really, I get a lot from, seeing bands on stage. And I suppose the reason I'm hesitating over this is that even though I've spoken about it quite a lot, I still find it quite difficult. Uh, I started developing some problems around depression, and I, classic, middle-aged, middle-class white male, refused to get help, didn't think I needed help. But
Yeah.
I knew that the places that gave me most solace were live gigs. So I was just going and going and going and going. And thankfully I got help. I got wonderful, wonderful support and help from the NHS, from my family, and things are a lot better now, but I'm still going to a lot of gigs. And I I started just I've always loved taking a couple of photographs and, bring out the phone. They're going to be out of focus. They're going to be, pretty, poor angle, whatever. And one night, and I've looked at it, it's somewhere in March 2024. I Instead of like just take a click, I recorded a bit of video, and I would have recorded like 20 seconds, but on this particular night, I started recording full songs. And so this is in March 2024. I was going to see Madam's Last Discovery in the wonderful Voodoo. Two bands, Sheep from Dublin were supporting, and Makeshift Art Bar were also supporting. And I had like I think for Sheep and Makeshift Art Bar, both of those clips are under 3 minutes. For Madam's, it's about 7 minutes. And the thing that changed it from there, just being one guy in the audience with his phone, was I happened to meet a guy called Dr. John Darcy. He's in the School of Arts, English and Languages in Queens at the Sonic Arts Research Center. And I was sitting on the couch one evening, and the guy sitting beside me was Dr. John, and we got talking. And just as I think part of the conversation was, I've got some video, some photographs of this here on my phone, and he turns to me and goes, "What are you doing with those?" And I kind of misconstrued the sentence or the question, thinking like, "Why do you have them? Should you have them?" He was asking like, "What are your long-term plans for these?" And I went, "They'll probably stay on the phone until such time as I run out of space, and I'll delete them." And he said, "Well, do you understand how difficult it is to reconstruct a music scene from those basic documents?" And he told me a story about somebody that was trying to do work on the Manchester music scene from the 90s. So Manchester scene, a lot of bands came out of it, a lot of famous albums. But the question is, what was it like when there were 20 people in the room before they were famous? And what are the documents? What are the videos, the audio recordings that actually give you an idea of what it feels like? And my background is in archaeology. Kind of, I was always academia adjacent, and so I'm listening to this academic who's speaking my language and doubtlessly manipulating me because he's going, you would be doing a service to the music historians of the future. And that was the moment that changed. That so that conversation must have happened somewhere between March 24 and June of 2024, because I was looking on the YouTube channel. There was a bunch of them that were filmed between March, but I started putting them out in June. And I said, "Well, I don't have permission from the bands." And he said, "Talk to the bands. They'll love you. They'll thank you." And so, yeah, I've always made it a point that there are two streams to why I do this. The the one that I get a lot from is thinking about the value that it's going to bring to the music historians of 2126. And then almost as a sideline is the good that it can do for musicians right here and now. And the conflict in that comes from when a musician goes, "That was not a good performance." I'm trying to go, "Look, people loved it. They were happy. I know you didn't think you did your best,
Yeah.
but you know who's really gonna love this? You know, music historians that aren't even born yet. So
Yeah.
please let me release the whole thing." And sometimes people go for it, sometimes they don't. But yeah, that was that one conversation with John. I met him not so long ago in the Empire, and he said, I could see you over there, filming." I said, "This is your fault. Thank you."
Oh,
And I've said it to my wife several times. I didn't know what my 50s were gonna be like. I'm 55 now, and I didn't have kind of like a plan. I was probably gonna take on another hobby,
yeah, yeah,
but I didn't have anything specific in mind. I certainly didn't expect it to be this. And all I can say is that I'm absolutely loving this. And I love meeting all these musicians. I love the fact that people feel that I'm doing something good for the scene. And I always say that, I work in a corporate job, and a lot of these places, there is an interest in giving something back to a community, and inevitably, like, they're going to a local beach to, pick up litter,
Yeah.
or they're planting trees on a hillside, and I go and film bands. That is my way of doing something positive and putting something really good, I hope, into the community.
Think like for myself personally, I think what you do is absolutely incredible because, and you're probably just like, no, no, it's a hobby. It's something I really like doing. But for myself, there, I'm coming from two streams of thought myself. I used to love. I was a big history person in school, and if I wasn't a primary school teacher, I would have gone to be a history teacher. Whenever I was growing up, when I was like 18 years old, I really got into the history of the Belfast music scene. So I would have gone to the Ulster Museum and I would have seen the exhibits. I would have seen the punk jackets. I would have seen the tickets. I would have seen that there. Going to the OES Centre and seeing their museum, going to all the venues and seeing the Blue Sides, going, the Undertones played here, Stiff Little Fingers played here, whatever it might be. That's incredible. Yes, absolutely love it. And I love the documentation of the history of the Belfast music scene. But what you do is you're capturing it, and you are, like you say, for future historians. I think that's amazing because that's just another form of media that can be looked at and go, and people can go, well, actually, I wonder what it was like back in 2026. And you go, well, look, all these videos from these bands who were playing. Because, I mean, yeah, it's cool seeing the set list in a glass cabinet. It's cool seeing a poster and a ticket stub. But if you have actual live, or, even like a live recording that you can hear, like, like live albums, yeah, amazing, that's class. But to actually see that live recording on the ground from such a underground level, that's incredible for that documentation.
I'm so grateful that, bands are amenable to this, and I've spent the last 2 years building up a lot of trust, because when I started, and I thought, I wanna do this the right way. I wanna ask bands permissions. I
Yeah,
wanna ask, the promoters permissions, and a lot of people went, "So what are you up to?" Because nobody's giving this away for free.
yeah,
Why are you doing this? And I just say, well, yeah, it's a hobby. Don't expect, £1,000,000
yeah,
aesthetics.
yeah,
But we're I'm interested in this. I think it's a good thing to do. And a lot of people going, I'm sure in their heads going like, he's gotta have some way of making money out of this. And I will say I get so much from it. It's just not counted in pounds.
yeah,
You know, the other thing I'll say to you is that, you know, as you've seen, like, I've been to you after a show going, I want your set list, because, you know, here's a bunch of them.
yeah,
I collect them,
yeah.
and the I keep them in acid-free boxes with museum grade protections on them. The idea is that one day I would love to think that these beautifully ephemeral documents of our scene will end up in a museum. Hopefully in the longer term, there will be a curated, hard drive server somewhere that these can be hosted on beyond just my YouTube channel, because, you know, something goes wrong with my YouTube channel, they lock you out and it's
Yeah.
gone. You don't
Yeah.
get it back. I've got a huge amount of external hard drives that they're sitting on. I am attempting to create an online backup of all of the released ones onto archive.org, so that by replicating that material, that it has a greater chance of survival beyond myself.
That's incredible though, because you think of all the gigs that have gone on over the years. Like you think of like, I always just think of those gigs from back in the 70s and the 80s, like during the Troubles and stuff like that. There, where bands were playing during that, like quite a contentious time, and things surviving and going, wow, like look at, like, this is a ticket stub from the Pound, or like, you know what I mean, or this is a ticket stub from, like, Stiff Little Fingers for a show. Like, to me, that's just incredible. And you think like bands like later the years down the line, like going, do you remember like whenever we played that show and being like, I wonder if that's on the archive or I wonder if that's uploaded. Do you know what I mean? I think it's such a class idea, and like I said, it come from two streams. Though as a musician as well, I think it's just fantastic. I know my I know my dad enjoys it, so he does. He if he can't go to the Cavalier show, he'll watch it. And he watched the Empire show that you've recorded, and it was just amazing. For him to actually just sit there and he's watching it, going, "Gee," and I go, "Yeah, that's me. Yeah, that's me." But yeah, I just think I think what you do is great. And I think the reasoning behind it, but also it goes beyond, it goes beyond a hobby. Obviously, it's an enjoyment. It is a hobby that you take such great pride in. It gives you such a fulfillment in that sense there. But it goes on, but beyond that, there of it's providing such a it's an unprecedented service that would require somebody to be paid for and to be doing this for, for that reason. But you're doing it for the preservation and to give people a glimpse into the past, which I think is just, I think it's a fantastic, I think it's a commendable achievement. So I think that's just
The
me personally.
No,
So
well, I thank you for those kind words. Um, there's another thing that's coming out soon. I've been harping on about this for a long time, and it didn't it didn't make sense to me until I was doing this little bit of research for the question you asked. Where it started was with Madam's Last Discovery, and I last August, myself and my youngest kid, we filmed Madam's in the Ulster Sports Club with 6 cameras, and between handheld and static, and we've been putting it together. And we, with a help from the fantastic Alex Close, and we are now at a point where we've booked the Accidental Theatre for August 14th, and we are putting it for one night only up on the big screen. And I'd love to leverage that type of work as, what I kind of broadly call mass movie as a service, and that, we'll charge you, but we can come along, we can film you from multiple angles, get a wonderful record of your show, and do everything from, you know, do the filming, the editing, make the trailers, create an entry on IMDb, book somewhere like the wonderful Accidental Theatre, put it up on there. We can create specialized merch. You want, audio CDs, we can get you pressed vinyl. We can do everything. We can create the movie poster, do all these things, and have it as basically kind of turnkey service that, we will start it, we will take it through, we will bring you out the other end, and you will have a movie of your performance. Nobody's doing anything like it. And um, I think, with the right bands, in the right environments, we could do something really, really cool.
that sounds amazing. That sounds, that goes beyond above and beyond the normal filming, because like you said, merchandise, vinyl, like that's incredible. That sounds amazing. That would be really cool to see.
But yeah, we have to get the Madams one out. And like I said, 14th of August in the Accidental Theatre. Tickets start from £12.
Amazing. That sounds good.
Come along. There is no guest list. Buy a ticket.
That's perfect. Perfect. No, that sounds great. Sounds great.
Listen, with that, I'm going to say, Dan, thank you so much for being my guest on this show. It's been really, really enjoyable talking to you. And yeah, we'll do this again sometime. And I will see you at Motion Sickness.
Yes, I will see it. Motion Sickness #3. I just want to say a big thank you for asking me to come on. I really appreciate it and getting to spend time with you and chat to you about music and everything else. And yeah, thank you so much for the opportunity.
Not a problem. Again, for anybody watching this far, you've got to the end. Please like, share, and subscribe, as all the cool kids say, and follow us on Facebook, or follow us on Spotify, and subscribe on YouTube too, please. Thank you very much.
Thank you.